Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Just Two Dads with my co-host, Sean Francis. I am Brian Altunian, and today's conversation, we're lucky to have not one, not two, but three guests joining us from the Wayfinder Family Services. You know, when you have a diagnosis for your child or for a family member, a lot of times you're like, okay, well, now that I know what it is, now what? Where do I go? How do I get the help? How do I get the support? I don't even know where to start. The folks that are going to be with us today are going to share with you exactly what to do and what things are available out there. So hang tight for another episode of Just. I almost cut myself off right there. Everybody, welcome to season 4. Episode 180 or something or other. Sean and I started this podcast about 4 years ago. Just a conversation of two dads with children with some special needs issues, having just the things that we share in common and the things that were different in what we were doing. And we realized that we had much more things in common. And the conversations we were having, we thought were of value. And we put this podcast together so we could talk to some of the amazing people that we have found in our journeys that have resources we didn't even know was available. And we thought it'd be a great chance for folks to share that and get access to a lot of this information. So today is no exception. So before we get into the conversation today, if you're catching us live on Facebook, thank you. Put some comments in the notes there. Happy to put them up on the screen. If you've got questions for our guests, that would be awesome. If you're catching us on podcast outlets or WSTX AM radio down in the U.S. Virgin Islands, thanks for making us part of your listening day. If there's something that you'd like to ask us or share with us, or reach out to us via email on our We Are Just Two Dads at Gmail. In fact, I'll put that up on the screen. We Are Just Two Dads at gmail.com. Send us an email, questions, thoughts, comments. You want to talk about my hair today, I'm happy. Whatever conversation comes up, we're happy to do that. We want to thank our partners, Billy Footwear, as well, for always supporting us. And we have a number of folks that support us. We're going to be putting their links up as we go along the way. So thank you. Hit us up on our website, justtodadspodcast.com. See all the back episodes. You can, again, send us notes if you'd like there, and share with your friends, like and subscribe to the videos, and share the content with as many people as you can. I think that kind of covers it. So we're going to introduce our guests. And before we do that, I always ask Sean this every episode, how you're feeling. And by the way, I'm okay, Sean. If the answer is the same, it makes me happy to know that you feel blessed. How are you doing today? How's it going today?
I'm doing good. I'll keep it really short. I had we've had conversation about how you asked me that, and I was beginning the show by saying I'm blessed and I'm fortunate and I'm thankful, and I figured that people probably get tired of hearing it, but it's true. And I will say this week in particular, I've arrived at that feeling by way of challenges. So we created the show to not just focus on caregiving and special needs and everything, but to in some way inspire somebody, make a person's life better, or put them in a position to make it better. And I'll make this really short. We had a neighbor, new neighbor actually, who has a considerable amount of vehicles and parks cars like any and everywhere. And try to have a kind conversation with the person about that, and was met with a real challenge to be a peaceful warrior. In other words, let me rise above and not be like Richard Pryor and Which Way Is Up, when he told one of his parishioners, look, don't make me have to put this glove on your ass. and what I did when I stepped away from the moment is I realized, I said, you know what, that guy probably needs my prayers and well wishes more than he does my hands. And it revealed itself that that's exactly what was needed more than anything else. I made a discovery a couple weeks ago. I made a post about it. I said, moments have more prisoners than any jail or penitentiary. And what happens is we have a moment where something takes place, and it's just a moment, and we react to it, and the ramifications of the short moment are actually eternal or long, ongoing. So it's not worth it. So anyway, I'm very grateful for the platform, grateful for the show. And our guests today are usually, you introduce an individual. Our guests today are 3 individuals that work with an entity known as Wayfinder Family Services. And as Brian said in the beginning, it's like you've got a diagnosis. Now what? You're constantly finding out services that are available to you that you may not have known about. Here in Southern California, we have more services available than most places have otherwise. But our guests today are Yanet Cortez, Rosa Hernandez, and Diana Lopez Trujillo from Wayfinder Family Services. Ladies, welcome to Just Two Dads.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's great to have you. We were fortunate enough to meet Yanet at an event Special Needs Network held as a back to school event, and we had booths sitting next to each other and enjoyed our conversation there. And we thought people should know about what it is that you folks are doing. So I'll go back to you, Sean, but I just wanted to say that I loved it, and I've loved the interaction and engagement so far, and the services that you provide are amazing. So we'll get into all that. Sorry, Sean, I didn't mean to step on your.
No, and as we always say that we're hosts, but we're as much audience members as anything else, and so we're asking questions that we would be writing down if we were observing as an audience member. So I look forward to learning exactly in more detail what Wayfinder Family Services does. But what we'd like to start with is a little bit of how each of you found your way to the organization and what each of you does. Because for a person to wake up and work in an environment or job where you're adding value to other people's lives, that has to do with who you are. So why don't each of you take just a quick, brief moment to tell us about that, exactly what you do with the organization and how you were led to that position.
Okay. Sorry. So I'm Yanet Cortez. I'm one of the navigators here at Wayfinder Family Services. I guess my journey to this position, it goes back to college. I started off as, during my college years, I was a behavioral therapist at an ABA company. And it really opened my eyes. That was my first time working with children with special needs. And it really did open my eyes to how immense the need is for our kiddos. From there, that's where my passion started. I then worked for Regional Center as also a navigator at South Central Los Angeles. That's where my knowledge really grew about all the services that families can receive, such as like IHSS, in-home supportive services, SSI, Social Security, income, and ABA as well. So that's really where my knowledge expanded. And then from there, I actually transitioned to a navigator here at Wayfinder Family Services to continue on that passion with helping individuals with those social services, in addition to Medi-Cal, CalFresh. So just expanding more my knowledge of government services and how to best help our families.
Amazing.
How did you, if you don't mind me asking, Yanet, how did you're going to high school, you're going to college. What is it that led you to becoming a behavioral therapist to begin with?
Yeah. So I always knew, like from high school, that I wanted to work with people and to help them, especially our vulnerable populations, like in low income communities. So when I was in college, I was first a pre-K assistant teacher, and it was actually just seeing how some students needed like more help, and it wasn't really like they weren't really getting the help that they were supposed to be getting. That really like that's where my research started, and then that's when I learned a little bit more about what autism is and how to help that population. And I wanted to make an impact in that community. So that's when I discovered the behavioral therapist role. And yeah, being a behavioral therapist, it really just did open my eyes to all the needs that they need, both like the kiddos, the support that the family needs as well. So yeah, that was a big eye opener.
Yeah, amazing.
Excellent.
Love that. Rosa, Diana, which one do you want to go next?
I can go ahead. Like Yanet, I'm also a family resource navigator. So as well, I was in college. I studied psychology. And for me, initially, I wanted to work with the teen population. So I was a residential youth counselor. worked there for some time, and then I transitioned into being a parent educator. I was really intrigued, I guess, in working with the teen population, seeing that a lot of the behavioral issues and a lot of the, I guess, the conditions really came from the family system and how that dynamic works. So I was curious as to how, parents affect their children's, life and upbringing. So I worked with parents as a parent educator, teaching about psychology, teaching, classes on Spanish, science, just things that parents maybe didn't have information on. And during that time, I was working in the schools. And so one thing that I noticed as well is a lot of families didn't have access to caregivers, or they didn't have access to just extra support at just hearing what the families would talk about. And so I ended up doing a fellowship with CORE, which was for early intervention. So I got to know more about early intervention, got to know more about different developmental disabilities, multi-disabilities. And that's kind of where I transitioned into Wayfinder. I saw the role and kind of what Wayfinder's mission was. And so I definitely wanted to support this diverse community and support the families that I so often was seeing through all my different roles. And it was a great opportunity for me to learn and to grow and to really get to support those families, empower them with the resources that they could use.
Yeah.
And Rosa, I have friends so you were a CORE fellow.
Yes, I was.
In that program. So I have a lot of friends from my days at UCLA that went through the CORE program. And that is, I mean, by the way, like Sean's part of a Caregiving Across Generations, he's a fellow this year as well. So being selected for a fellowship it's an honor. And it's it's an acknowledgement of, somebody who's going to make a difference in the world. So good for you. I mean, that is amazing. Congratulations on that. I love the CORE fellowship. And the folks that I know that have been through it are in government offices and in, again, helping the community significantly. So brilliant for the Wayfinder folks to hire you because it makes a difference. So that's awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Diana, how about you?
Yes, I'm Diana Lopez Trujillo. I'm the assistant director for the program, and I oversee the program. So I've been at Wayfinder for now over 23 years.
Wow.
I started when it used to be Foundation for the Junior Blind. What led me to this agency is when I was in college, I was studying psychology also. I wanted to be a social worker at the beginning. When I was trying to finish my degree, I had some units to be able to teach. So I was a preschool teacher for a year before I finished my BA. And I noticed that wasn't my passion. And so I wanted to still work with children, but also work with families. And it led me to this program who they also do in-home visits. They go in to help families. And this is for visually impaired kids. So before Foundation for the Junior Blind just used to see kids and adults with visual impairment. And as the time went on, the leadership team noticed that there was a need out there in the community, that there's more that we can do. So they start adding more programs to our agency, and we started growing. So we became Wayfinder, and we now cover a lot of programs, not only for the visually impaired communities, but also for other community and children who have not only the visual impairment, but also disabilities, foster adoptions, there adult services. There's a lot of services that we provide at Wayfinder. But yeah, I love Wayfinder because we are out there in the community helping them navigate the system, because it's really tough out there for the families. And being in a Wayfinder, I learned so much from just being out in the community in a Wayfinder. And now as a parent of autistic children, I have 2 autistic children.
Oh, wow.
this had helped me tremendously navigate also my own journey through, learning through Wayfinder and giving me the opportunity to do a lot more and learn more for my kids.
How old are your children?
My kids, one of them is not 10 and 12. So they're
And how old were they when they were diagnosed?
They were 3, but we kind of knew before they were 3 that there was a lot of signs that I think probably when they were about 18 months, I started noticing like, okay, there is some signs of autism. Of course, they were too young to be diagnosed, but just learning at Wayfinder what I've learned, and they had helped me train a lot of trainings and go out there, I knew how to navigate the system. So coming into this family resource navigator, I have more knowledge to help the team navigate the system.
And did you say they're both 9?
No, 9 and 12.
9 and 10. Okay, good. And then what are their genders, if you don't mind me asking? 9 and 12. Okay.
Yes.
And then and their genders, both one boy, one girl, or
one boy and one girl.
That's fantastic. Diana, I'm sorry, Rosa actually mentioned something that stuck in my head that I'd like you each to comment on. You were talking about Wayfinder's mission. So I know that there's a lot that Wayfinder offers, so it's kind of difficult to drill down in one sentence what Wayfinder does. But tell us about the mission and about the services and the manners in which Wayfinder goes about building a bridge between needs and services and the special needs community.
Who wants to go first?
We definitely want to bridge that gap. So we've noticed in times that we used to serve our population, our agency and our department was the child development program. So we serve kids in home from birth to 3 years old. And then there was a gap of services. And then we have our special ed school. So we have a special ed school at our campus. And then after that, then we have our adult services. So I know there's still a lot of gaps that we can cover, but our mission is to serve the community for those children and families who need those services and be their advocates and help them navigate the system and get the help the children need to meet those goals that they need to meet.
And Diana, we're going to put the page up for those who are seeing this. We're putting the web page up so you can see. So is it regionally? Are you guys geographically focused, or is it everywhere? Are there Wayfinder chapters in other places? Well, obviously, we met you in Southern California, but
yes, we are in Southern California and Northern California. So we are in Central Valley. So we have a lot of different programs who are in Southern California, in Central Valley, and in Northern California. So we have a lot of programs that we cover throughout the state.
Gotcha. So primarily the state of California, and underserved communities, or like as Yanet said, vulnerable communities. But is that a main part of the focus, or is it open to everybody that has a child or a family member?
We're open for any families that need our services. They don't have to be underprivileged. We are in a community. We're located in View Park, so we're pretty close to the Crenshaw Central area. So at the beginning, of course, that was our focus, but we have expanded and we're funded, at least our program is funded through the Department of Disability. So it's a grant, it's free of charge to the families. They don't have to pay absolutely nothing.
That was my next question.
Yeah, for them to join our team and be part of our program to get those, navigate those services. So it's free to the families.
Yeah, because I think the first thing that people do is they have no idea what to do, even if they go online and they go to Google and they're like, where do I start? I remember when my daughter was diagnosed 20 25+ years ago, 26 years ago. We went online and just typed in microcephaly. It's the only word that we remembered our doctor telling us. And we found a support group that, was like, oh, you got to go to early intervention. You got to find a regional center. And those were foreign words to us. We had no idea what any of that meant. So, and you guys get out in the community and you tell people, right? Because how do people find you normally? I mean, obviously you have a website, you have a place that people can go once they know about you, but how do they find out about you? How do they find out?
Yeah.
More
so I know in the website for the Department of Disability, they do have us as one of the grantees to be able to get the navigation services. But we've been meeting with so many agencies, hospitals, infant clinics. There's been so many conversations with preschools and just regular schools. Anybody that want to talk to us, we have met and we have made presentation, and it appears that little by little, the word of mouth is how we've been expanding our services. And then thank you for inviting us, because I think this would help families get that support that they need.
Good. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we thought, we want people to know about the kinds of things that are available to them. A lot of folks don't realize how much assistance is out there, whether it's through government grants or private corporate grants or what. People don't know where to go to get resources. So we love this. And we're having an event in later October, which I hope you guys are coming to as well. Yeah, to be out in another part of the community of Southern California. So that'll be great. Amazing. So first of all, again, kudos to you. And I was a psych major as well, from this school over here. I could never figure out what from this school here. So I love the fact that we're out there doing great stuff. And you're on social media as well. Yeah, Sean was kind enough to.
Yes.
Okay, good. Wayfinder Family. If you're on Instagram, do you have Facebook? You have all the regular social media.
Yes, we do.
Beautiful. That's awesome. And then so Diana, it's fascinating because we always talk about people who contribute to the community that don't have the experience, and that's really where you started. You didn't have a child that had any visual impairment issues, and you decided to go. And I would say, Yanet, you and Rosa the same, right? You don't have personal experience, so we do feel blessed when we encounter folks who don't have that personal experience. And amazing, Diana, that you then had children that had autism, so you could actually take advantage of those services that your organization. I got to think that had to have a huge positive impact on the organization.
Absolutely. If it wasn't for my agency, helping me attend those trainings that they're like, oh, do I have to take? If it wasn't for that, I don't know where I'd be. And I wish this type of program was available to me when I was starting to navigate the system. I wish we had that opportunity, because I would have definitely needed that. But I can definitely, share my experience with the team and help any family that I can with my experience to let them know, like, this is how you can navigate the system. This is what you say. This is what you should apply for. What benefits you have available to you.
Amazing. Well, thank God.
What's the most, several things that are running through my mind. One is, if it wasn't for the event that we were at, we wouldn't know of you. And the organization whose event we were at, the Special Needs Network, we were at the back to school event, and no one entity, organization, or person is going to cover, reach, touch, and or inspire everyone. So the more persons and entities and individuals that are doing this kind of work, the better. And it just kind of blows me away that there's all these fantastic services that you offer, and if we weren't at that event, we wouldn't know. So there's two things I want to ask, which is, one, where can people donate, because you are a nonprofit entity and donations help you to do the great work that you do? That's number one. And then number two, tell us about, because what I found that still fascinates me, a son turned 18 this past year, graduated high school in May, And I am still blown away by the different human reactions that people have to a diagnosis, whether it's based on culture, gender, experience, or whatever have you. So, two things: where donations can be made, and then the other thing is the type of things that you've encountered, especially in underserved communities, where people tend to have, in our communities of color, especially, we tend to be very um, proactive and thirsty and hungry for knowledge and information. And in some cases, depending on culture, very guarded and not willing to step forth and um, have anyone know about a diagnosis. So, Brian, we've talked about trying not to do these compound questions, but those are the two things that were in my mind. I think the easiest one is the donations, then your experience with regard to reaction from a cultural standpoint.
Absolutely. You can definitely go to our website to make a donation, reach out to our leadership team. You can reach out to us directly. We can guide you through the process. Yes, absolutely. We're a nonprofit. We do receive donations, and we gladly receive more donations so we can continue serving those families who need those services out there. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's on the webpage, right at the very top of the
Exactly.
the
Yes.
webpage. So
And then the other part was, yes, so we have encountered a lot of families who are guarded. And sometimes we do get interest forms on what services we can provide for them. And sometimes they're not ready for those services. They're just inquiring about how to access those services. So
Mhm.
it's definitely talking to them to see if they're ready. A lot of families are guarded to even have us come into their home to do an application, right? So we're very, very mindful on how to navigate those situations, and we can meet them, at the park. We can meet them, at a coffee shop, whatever they feel comfortable with, and we can help them whatever they might need. We do have application process to either Medi-Cal, SSI, IHSS. We can help them find a job, help them with their resume, finding housing, food bank. So there's a lot of services that we can provide for them. It's just if they can reach out to us and we can help them, whatever they might need. We're there to help.
That's fantastic.
And just picking back off of Diana, I think it's also like meeting like the families halfway. So like Diana said, some families they're not ready to receive the services, or especially like I have encountered like families in my or in our community where sometimes they don't even want like their child to have that label that they're autistic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just meeting them halfway. For example, I did have a family that was their situation. They knew that their child needed some support. However, they didn't want the title of, or they didn't want them to get diagnosed with autism. So it's just meeting them halfway, letting them know, okay, you might not want the diagnosis first, like explaining, the importance and like all the benefits. But if they still don't want it, it's just okay, maybe for school, getting them an IEP. An IEP necessarily does not mean that they'll get labeled or be diagnosed with autism. It's just receiving the support that they need to excel in school. So it's really sometimes just meeting the parents halfway, based on like if they are guarded or based on their needs. But yeah, and then there's other parents that they're on top of it. They're like, I want to know about in-home supportive services. I want to know about Social Security income and all of these programs. And yeah, so we get a bit of both, but yeah, it's just meeting the families where they are and just working with them what they give us.
I think one of the most valuable things we can do is, empowering people, giving them tools to put into their utility bill, because what they do with it is completely up to them. Because look, we have this show. Brian and I are part of an initiative which we're actually relaunching to bring financial service education and opportunity to the special needs community. Brian mentioned earlier that I'm a 2024 fellow with Caring Across Generations. I've sat on the board of the Autism Parents Advisory board of Children's Hospital. So all these things, I'm supposed to be like in the know. I'm, this advocate and all this kind of stuff. And yet, when our son turned 18, I felt like there was a new diagnosis that took place with regard to some of the emotional changes and things like that he's going through. But services that I knew about for years with regard to Social Security and IHSS, I became re-educated on. We did, both my wife and I.
Yeah.
Me more so than her, because, for instance, when it comes to Social Security, like we found out and knew right away he wouldn't qualify for that under the age of 18 because our income is taken into consideration. So that knocks him out. However, we weren't clear as to how IHSS worked and had no idea they were actually eligible for it. So people need to educate themselves. And two, if you're sitting there listening and thinking about, well, I don't know if I want government services or whatever have you, sometimes there's pride. Sometimes you make enough and don't really need those services, so to speak. But Einstein has said that we can't solve a problem at the same level of consciousness at which it occurs. So you are in the middle of the eye of the storm. Until you step out for a second, you can't really gain true perspective. So there's things like respite or some of these monetary benefits and things like that. It's okay to take advantage of those things. You're not taking advantage of someone. And it's nice, and we appreciate if someone's like, somebody else may need that more than me. Just make sure that if you're passing up the opportunity to take advantage of these things, that you're doing so from a well-informed perspective, because there's a lot to learn. Yes, my long-winded way of saying I'm supposed to be in the know, and I can't ever stop learning. And that's one of the things that I think is so great about this platform and even being in this position. And to tell you the truth, I think it's one of the things that keeps us alive, because, as a child, one of the things that keeps you young is anticipation, having something to look forward to. As we get older, we look back more than anything else, and being able to serve others in this capacity and then to continue to learn and then share with other people what you learn. I don't know. I can go on and on, because it's something that keeps me alive. It's the lifeblood of my existence. And I'm just so thankful for it, and to be able to exchange energy with people like all of you and those that are listening, whether it's now or in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sean. And piggyback on what you're saying about financial opportunities, is we are connected with CalAble, and we can we can share that information with the families, and the savings account that the families can get through the state without any consideration of their income. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, that's some of the areas that we help families navigate as well. So we can talk after the podcast about how we might be able to do something together where, we can serve those families, provide that service that you all recommend, and then make sure those families are taken care of. Because that's an area that people leave, right? It's always sort of concentric circles, right? It's what's immediately in front of me. What do I do tomorrow? What do I do next week? What do I do next year? And then it's, and most of the time we're so, buried in what's right in front of us that we forget to think about the longer term stuff. What happens as my child turns 18 and becomes an adult? What happens after I pass away? Who takes care of my child? All of those kinds of things are of concern. And those are the things that we talk about in the work that we do. So, so we get it. Like, we serve and often are educating people on what's available that they don't even know is available. So again, I think what you all are doing is really incredible, and hopefully we'll get a chance to do something together and help.
Yeah. And whether we're talking about resources, a diagnosis, financial education, or services, the one thing I've really come to learn, I say, like, I used to hear the saying, youth is wasted on the young. Well, and I get it, because getting older is like a superpower, right? You find these things that you realize, if I have such a deep appreciation for quote unquote painful conversations or doing things that I don't like to do, especially if I can focus on what I'm going to get out of it, long term. So whether it comes to financial services, planning for a time when you exist in memory only, dealing with a diagnosis, putting off these conversations only makes it more difficult whenever we choose to face it. So if somebody's listening right now and like, well, my child doesn't make eye contact, this doesn't happen, I don't know. It's worthwhile to have that conversation. You know, Brian and I started a men's support group, and for those that are caregivers or dads to someone with a diagnosis, the Den. And when we first started the group, I made a post on the Facebook page for the group and tagged members, because my thought was other people will see, hey, so and so's in it as well. There's two things I noticed: a large percentage of the men that were in the group were referred by their wives because they weren't stepping forward to do that themselves. And one of the men in the group, who's an active member, actually told me, could you on the down low remove me from not from the group, but the tag, because my wife and I have not told our family about our son's diagnosis. And trying to remain more curious than judgmental, I completely understand, because none of us wakes up doing what we do and just being who we are. We're all the sum total of our experiences. So, they had to find their way to tell family. And I still don't know if they have, but they're working through that. So there isn't a right or wrong way. I try not to look at it that way. There's just, if you take path A, here's what you're going to get. You take B, that's what you're going to get. Decide which path to take and make sure that the choices comes from a well-informed perspective.
Yeah, there wasn't a question there. It was really just.
I did want to say, Sean, I think that's amazing that you guys
I didn't preface that as being a question, so that was as close to thoughtful ramble as you'll get.
I think also with working, just from personal experience, some of the fathers in our program, there is a level of vulnerability that you see, when they're in those either financial burden or just whatever situation they may be. You do see a different kind of vulnerability. And when you have that sense of, you're taking into consideration maybe the traumas that they're facing and all of these different factors in their life, you do get that vulnerability. And I do sometimes see that conflict sometimes of, do I tell you that I need this help, or do I just kind of hold off and not say anything? And, just working with the families and, building that rapport, eventually you hit that, you hit that wall and you go past it, and you're able to really support, some of those fathers that we have that, they may be going through a lot of different things. So I think support groups like that are really necessary for the community, really necessary for men as well.
Yeah. And we will send you the link so you can share, so they can, they can come and join the Den. There's no charge of membership fee. We want, and we're men, so we all know that, there's bravado. We want to fix everything.
We mask.
We well, for sure. And so we come from that common space. And so it's a safe space. Again, we call it the Den because in the house, that's generally the room. The guys all gather around, put the TV on, some sports, and have a beer and just chat. And that's kind of how the Den has been designed and how the conversations flow, honestly, where we're sort of sharing, like, I got an issue I'm trying to figure out this week. Can you help me? And again, as you all know, and in the community, moms are usually the warriors, the mom warriors. And dads are like, yeah, just tell me where you need to be, where I need to go, what do I need to do? But dads are left out of the conversation, sometimes by design, sometimes because we sometimes don't have the tools to navigate these waters as easily, or as, it's not really easy, but as easily as women do, because just a mom nurturing, dad for, going out and gathering, hunting and gathering. So it's great to have that. So, again, we'll talk about that. We'll share the link so you can share with some of the dads that just want to have a conversation. We meet on Zoom every 2 weeks and on a Sunday morning, and just a good way to just have some bonding, so.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm, sure. And just like the show, everything, I think anytime we can remind someone that they're not alone, that's what any and everything is about. And sometimes that's all anybody needs, just to be heard and seen. And so that, that's what comes through. Yeah. But I'm sitting here still kind of processing that you guys do so many great things, and we're still fairly recently just finding out about you. So, that amazes me too.
I mean, a junior foundation for the blind, that's been around
That's
for
been around.
a really long
Right.
time, Diana. Yeah.
Yes.
And how recently did they change over to Wayfinder?
I would say probably about 10 years ago. So it's been a while since we changed. But yeah, Foundation for the Junior Blind was, we've been in business since 1953.
Wow.
Our program itself, we've been open since I think in the 80s, somewhere in the 80s. So, and as the time has grown, we have grown in programs,
So the physical location in Los Angeles, which is like a big sprawling campus, is that still there and under that name? Because I know just a little under 10 years ago, the Special Needs Network had one of their events there that actually we participated in two events that they had there at that location. Is that location now under Wayfinder or
Foundation
for the Blind?
Yeah, it's Wayfinder. It's
okay.
In the Hills View Park. So yes, we're still located there. There's our main campus.
Okay.
Fantastic. So for those that are in the Southern California area, actually in anywhere in California, accessing the Wayfinder service is great. Now, do you know, first of all, is there an expansion into other states, or are there other organizations in other states, if people are catching us in other states, that provide the same kind of services as Wayfinder? There must be, right?
Yes, we have collaborated with different countries, actually.
Oh, great.
I've gone to, I think it was Japan, I think India too, where we've shared our knowledge, and they have started their own programs. They're going in home to help those impacted by the visual impairment community. Yeah.
Gotcha. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Anything that we haven't covered yet as we're going through this? Other things that you do, the direction of where this is going for you individually, or maybe for the organization. What would you like to share with us?
Definitely, we are expanding. We just got another grant through our Healthy Families, and that's gonna start pretty soon. We're still in the work in progress. We just got a notification that we were granted this grant. And this is for families who are just find out that they're pregnant, and helping them navigate that system to get all the appointments ready. And then we follow them through up to the 6 months after they're born, and just getting them any services they might need, apply for medical. So still the services that, but when we start before they actually have the babies.
Wow.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes. And then we are expanding to San Diego County. So we are going to expand our services to San Diego.
Beautiful.
That's great.
Beautiful.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Wow.
I'll let Angie know, Angie Robinson, who put a comment up there on Facebook. Let her know that's her area. And she's part of We Are Brave Together, the mom support group that we support. So
nice.
Good for them to know, know about it all.
Maybe I can speak with her.
Yeah, we'll connect. We'll connect you all. Rosa, you were going to say something. I saw you were going to just.
Oh, yeah. I did want to mention as well, because I know you were saying that how do we get the program out there? How do we get more people to know about the program?
Right.
We constantly are reaching out to, other agencies, other organizations. However, we do a lot of outreach in the community. I think it's so important to really reach the population directly. We've just seen that when we go out to the community and really share the program, that's where families actually get to know about the services. Sometimes, going through community organizations, sometimes there's that, maybe the family doesn't get to see the flyer or something along those lines. But I think really going into the community and us just going to resource fairs, we're also hosting resource fairs at Wayfinder for our family. So I believe we will be having a resource fair November 2nd. And it's really just going to be free resources for families. So just all kinds of materials like diapers. We're going to have, I believe, socks, clothing, wipes, just infant materials, just really for the community. And we try to host this at least once every 2 months, just so that people could come down, get more information, maybe sign up for the program if that's also something they're interested in. But just giving the options and just, those resources that we have that we can give out.
Now,
at your location, at your
Yes, at the Wayfinder campus site.
beautiful.
Now, earlier when we talked about donations, we put the website on the screen and we show the donation button where people can make monetary donations. But you were just talking about resources and things like, diapers and socks and shoes and things of that sort.
Yes.
Is there a way for people to donate items like that, such as clothing and things of that nature as well?
Yes, we have somebody who is in charge of our donations. So definitely we can share that information with you. They can, you can share that information and then they can contact her directly, because there's different things that they need to do.
There's criteria, because obviously you want to make sure nobody's donating like crusty drawers or anything like that.
Correct.
Okay. No, I understand that completely. That's good. We'll make sure that we share that also. I think we may have told you when we were scheduling all of this that the hour goes by very fast.
Yes, it does.
It's been amazing.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you
we're at the point of the show.
Good.
Speaking of that hour going by fast, where we pose the following question. You can each take your time answering this. And as mentioned before, there is no wrong answer, but our ability to make the world a better place or to change the world is obviously based on our ability or our willingness to change ourselves. So if you can, each of you, just give us one example of a thought or a belief that you once believed strongly and deeply, but now no longer believe to be true.
I can go first. I think I'm on the same boat with you, Sean, about the IHSS. I never thought that I could apply for IHSS. And I no longer believe it because now I'm receiving IHSS. It's really educating yourself on how to navigate those services. Yes.
And I think that, first of all, I think that's brilliant. And for people to remember that you are your biggest advocate. And even though you are in a situation that's foreign and you may not know, you have to ask, because we don't know what's available to us, and nobody's going to. I mean, there are very few places that just say, "Here, well, let me give this to you. Let me give this to you." You have to ask for it. You're one of the few organizations that is willing to just share resources, but people have to advocate for themselves and have to. I always tell my daughter, who's now 28, still, like, you are your best self advocate. So continue to push the envelope and ask the question. So.
Yeah. And in true transparency here, Brian and I have had a conversation about this, and he's even said, I didn't tell him I was going to share this here. I think I did, generally speaking, once before. He's like, if you say that kind of goes against maybe our brand or even yourself. But I think there's transparency in it. And that when I heard the term caregiver, I didn't think, oh, that's not me. I was so disassociated from that I had no, because sometimes you hear a negative connotation and you're like, oh, I'm not that. I didn't even think I wasn't that. It just never dawned on me. Wait a minute. That's what we do. And that's what we are, because I'm busy thinking about, I'm so grateful for what I have that I'm thinking about people who are caregivers with a bigger load. Maybe they're dealing with someone that physically is unable to walk or doesn't speak or something like that. And those are not the challenges that we face, but we are caregivers nonetheless. And there is no shame in accepting benefits that you actually qualify for. They are there for a reason. So I appreciate you saying that, Diana. Yeah.
Rosa, how about you? Question to you.
Yes. So something I can definitely say is that when I was doing my my bachelor's for psychology, and I was thinking about what I wanted to be, what I wanted to do, what kind of services I wanted to provide, I would hear the conversation a lot about how service providers or social workers had a negative connotation, in the sense that it's a lot of people have burnout and it's difficult to navigate the systems. And I feel like at that time, a part of me was kind of swayed with the opinion that, it is difficult and maybe I shouldn't go down that route, or service providers maybe is just a difficult, I guess, career choice. And the more that I learned about the different roles and just basically the help that service providers do give, the more that opinion has completely changed for me. Now that I do provide services, that I see that it's more than all the negativity that people place on that idea. But I think service providers are some of the most compassionate and passionate people that I've seen. And I can say that, in my work, getting to collaborate with so many different individuals, that it just constantly reminds me that it is not negative, if that makes sense. There's definitely, it has such
It's
a positive
tremendous.
ring now to me. So it has definitely changed.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. We have to remember at the end of the day, if you take a collective group of people and put them into a jar, a class, a country, a business, an opportunity, a company, whatever have you, you're going to have people that don't embody what that is about or aren't necessarily the best of what that is meant to be. That's just human nature. And thank you for that reminder. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yes. So for myself, when I was a behavioral therapist, actually, I strongly didn't know about the many resources that there was. I didn't even know what regional center was. But yeah, just more that I got into my field, I do believe that there's a lot of resources out there for parents that have kiddos with special needs. It's just learning about them. Like you said, just asking and knowing who to ask, where to ask. But yeah, that's one belief that has changed for me throughout this career.
Beautiful. Well, the work that you all are doing is amazing. It's so needed in every community, but definitely the communities that are vulnerable, that may not have. Let me just say this. A lot of people think that the financial drain that having a child or a family member with special needs it makes it almost an impossible hill to climb, to even consider, and to know. And if you don't have a lot of resources, you really, some people just put themselves in a bit of a self-imprisonment situation where they don't know who to talk to or how to reach out to anybody. So the fact that you don't charge for your services, and the services that you recommend are generally free and, impactful for families, really, it really is an admirable position, and it's going to change the lives of so many people. And it has already, I'm sure, for so many that you all encountered. So kudos to you all for working, and you're doing this, and your dedication. And Yanet and Rosa, I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say you probably have not been in this for 23 years like Diana, by just guessing. But the fact that Diana, that you've got these two amazing women involved in your organization it says a lot about you and about the organization, the programs, as much as it does about them. These two seem like they're amazingly committed folks, and so proud to have a chance to have this conversation and to know you and the work that you all are doing. So thank you all for that.
Yeah, I have to echo that, and sound like an old man, like an old person. I feel like I shouldn't be saying it in this voice, but it should sound more like this, which is that it's fantastic to see you young people serving the community. Yeah. But it really is, because when you stop and think of, and this just takes it back to, again, what we do today and the examples that we serve, and what our children see. Like, I don't know, Yanet and Rosa, if you have children, but if you do, and when you do, what they're going to see as an example, because of you doing work like this, as Diana has done for years, it makes the world a better place. And there's things that are going to benefits. There are people that are going to benefit from the work that you do that haven't even been born yet.
Yeah. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As we wrap up this episode, again, I want to thank everybody who caught us live on Facebook, made comments, and gave us the thumbs up and the heart. Appreciate you all. Share the content with folks, because our goal is to get as many people to know about Wayfinder Family Services as we possibly can. So thank you for that. And if you're catching us after the fact, again, share the video, share the episode with other folks. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us at our Gmail address. We are just2dads@gmail.com. Thank you all for listening and for viewing. And thank you, Billy Footwear, for being a partner with us. And again, if you guys have any interest, we're going to put the links in our show notes and on our Facebook page and our YouTube page, so you can find out how to get hold of these folks and share with as many people as you can. So as we wrap up, I always say, empathy and love, so important today, almost more than any other time. And by the way, every day I say it, feels like it's even more true today than the last time I said it. Have some empathy for the person that you encounter. You don't know what they're going through or what their situation is or anything. So have some empathy before you make a judgmental decision about or comment. And if you look at the world through the lenses of love, the world's a good place. So empathy and love, as always. So on that note, throw it over to Sean to wrap us out. And thank you, ladies, again for your support. I'm looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Ladies, thank you so very much for your time. Thank you to everyone within the sound of my voice. And remember, questions are more powerful than statements. In the words of the great Muhammad Ali, service to others is the rent we pay for our room here on earth. Let's try to be a little bit more childlike. Let's childish. Everybody needs to be seen, needs to be heard, needs to know that they matter and that they are loved. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we love you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See everybody next week. Just Two Dads.